everyone. Welcome to SafeR Journeys, a podcast dedicated to raising children, ending violence, and ending oppression. I am one of your co-hosts, Heather, here at Safe Journeys in Central Illinois, and I've got Melissa with me.
Hello. I am the Community Engagement Director with Safe Journeys, a domestic and sexual violence agency empowering survivors and seeking to end this kind of violence in our communities and end oppression as well. And Heather is one of our preventionists and actually our community engagement specialist.
Yep, that's right. I don't do as much with the young kids, but like occasionally, and I do a lot of the more science-y stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's where your specialist thing comes in.
Yeah. I'm a little more sciencey. I'm like, we need to do this. Look at this data.
Yeah.
And everybody goes, okay.
Like, oh,
all
it's
right,
evidence-based, backed up by science.
All right, I guess we'll do it.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because I've been talking with some area youth at some high schools in our service area, and we have been getting some feedback just from them. And when I say listening, like I'm asking some questions of them and even planning some presentations with them and asking them, what do you want to talk about when it comes to relationships? Or, what do you think about consent? Like when it comes to you and your friends, what are you facing right now? And it's interesting because in one high school, I'm talking with a young person about rejection and how people handle rejection.
Not well all the time.
Or even how the rejection is given. And it's like, how do you even go from that? Especially like ghosting or like breaking up over text after a 2-week relationship or something like that. And they're just like, and we talked about, getting caught up in the why of it.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. I did that probably until I got married.
Oh my goodness. Well, and we also talked about how rejection is not just in dating relationships, that it's in friendships.
It is.
And family and even feeling a rejection as a young person from your parents and their expectations of you. Yeah. And you feel like you're letting them down because they have an expectation of you that's just like, it's not you.
Yeah.
And it's not realistic. And I know I've talked about that on this podcast before of like me having expectations of like my kiddos. And then it's like, oh, hold on a second. It's not even a lowering. It's more like
shifting?
Understanding with them. Like, yeah, shifting. It's more like looking at them, listening to them, seeing them. And honestly, and this is where what it came down to with another youth, it was like, all I want is them to say, I see you, I hear you. Now, what do you want to do about this? How do you want to go forward and how can I support you? That was what it came down to for rejection, especially with parents.
We also previously had done some small listening sessions with some young people, and that was the takeaway as well.
Yeah.
They want to be validated. They want to be seen and heard and respected.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem that like pivotal of a revelation, but like honestly, sitting with young people again, I'm just like, yeah, but it's so easy to not do these things.
Yeah.
I think we get so caught up in like, what am I supposed to do? What, and even the young people facing rejection and how they handle it. Like, again, it's so important that we model how to handle rejection. And it's so easy not to handle rejection well. Because like you can also receive rejection just from society. You can receive it through your workplace. You can, like
college applications.
Exactly. So like thinking about what seniors face in high school, like just that, acceptance letter, rejection letter, like just in the feelings like, am I going to get in or not? Am I good enough
the anxiety.
Or not? Yeah. And honestly, what we decided like that presentation would really focus on is like accepting yourself, really knowing your worth, and that confidence is going to be key.
Because it's not going to just help. And this is for honestly anyone, not just young people.
No, totally.
Having valuing yourself, being able to face rejection with grace that also helps you to establish and enforce boundaries.
It does. And we actually talked about too, like, okay, so let's say you just got rejected. What do you need? I know that I need time and space. And if you don't give yourself time and space and you just have to keep plowing forward, like, you're going to continue to be stuck in that why. Like, what did I do wrong? Why is this happening? Like,
if I was prettier, if I was funnier.
Yeah. Or if I hadn't done this thing, or whatever it was. And we'll never know. The only thing we can control is us.
Our own reactions.
We don't know the motivations for other people or their rejection of us or whatever it is. And so what it really came down to was like, okay, like, make sure you have enough time and space to really take care of yourself in that time, because you need to get back to the place where you know that you have worth. They didn't reject your personhood, like who you are at your core. They were just rejecting that relationship with you, or whatever it was. Or maybe like you felt it as rejection when somebody said they didn't like that thing that you created, or whatever it was. And so making sure it doesn't get to the core and being like, so having that self-worth and having making a list of things that make you feel good. And that's how she said it. She said, I would have them do one of the final activities I would have them do is make a list of a few things that make them feel really good. And then the checkout could be like, which of these are you going to do tonight?
Yeah. I mean, which really we've done in other stuff.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about our teen workshop. Like that was the end of every session.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that would be super valuable.
Yeah.
Gosh, rejection it's a weird one. There's a lot of feelings.
There is. And so I really loved that conversation, and it happened with two different youth. And then the consent messaging is something that it's so funny because our prevention team, our ages are like in our 30s and 40s.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
And so we're stuck like in this older lady consent messaging that we received when we were younger. And we're like, oh yeah, consent is sexy. That's like the best one we've ever heard. So we're going to keep saying it. And then I was preparing some questions for the listening session, and I asked Heather, like, so what should I ask? And she's just like, we need to ask about consent messaging. That works.
And it's because I had just done that like consent day thing at the college.
Yeah.
And I was trying something new. It was a little uncomfortable for me. I was a little nervous because some of the language that I was giving them was kind of explicit. It was on purpose because I'm trying to use language that they were using.
And it's the adult. They're adults.
And they are adults, absolutely. And just like give them examples of what consent during sexual activity might look like.
Right.
But as I was handing them out, I'm thinking to myself, I think these are cool, but I'm 40. And I know when I was 19 and 20, I did not think the same things were cool that my, 45-year-old mom or whatever was thinking. So we wanted to have messaging that was impactful.
Yes.
It's like we don't have enough time to waste time.
We do not. No. And we need something that's going to really hit them and help them understand. And they're not just going to tune out and be like, listen to these old ladies try to talk to us about consent.
Yeah. And I'm always worried about it, especially because, I've got an 18-year-old living in my house telling me how lame I am all the time. So, yeah.
That's too much.
But did we even say then what the messaging was?
No,
because it was great.
So good because she was telling me that she and her friends actually this is something they face all the time because and obviously I'm not going to share names or anything, but she and her friends she says they will do anything it takes to be in a relationship with somebody. So if it's a guy, right? Like if the guy wants to do something, they're going to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's how they're going to get to be with that person. They don't see like a boundary there. They're just like, whatever it takes to be with that person, like that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And they're not thinking back to themselves, is this something I want? And so what she said is something that rhymes. And I was like, oh my gosh, but it's sure and I guess do not mean yes. Because that's honestly, those are the answers they'll give. It's just like, oh, do you want to do this thing?
I guess.
Sure. And like, okay, but that's not an enthusiastic yes that like we talk about, you know? And so, and when she was telling me this, she knew. And she even described the dynamic. She's like, oh yeah, this is exactly what happens. Like, I do it too. And I was like,
you're like,
that's
no.
amazing. You've even reflected enough to tell me that. Like,
that's very true.
You know what's going on. And she watches her friends do it as well.
Which she probably is able to reflect on better because it's
sure.
not her own feelings involved. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because she'd be like, yeah, my friends. And then eventually she's like, yeah, I mean, I do it too.
That is the story of my life. I'm constantly like, you know, don't eat fast food every day, blah, blah, blah. Candy's terrible for you. And then it's like I go home and eat, you know, Culver's and a bag of candy. It's like, cool, Heather. Nice job. Way to be a hypocrite.
I know. Well, same with this podcast, right? I'm like, I need to listen to that episode again. Put it in my life again.
Yeah, we are humans.
Yeah. It always reminds me of that like Zen mind, beginner's mind. Like always, you can start again.
Yeah.
And that's what like.
And it's usually easier when you
live.
start again.
Yeah.
Because you've done this before.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, so we are going to be talking about child abuse prevention at home today. And so just a trigger warning that we always start with since this content has domestic and sexual violence in it. So
yeah. So all of the stuff today, we're just kind of giving you little extra pieces that you can do with the children or the young people in your life to help encourage and develop the skills that they need to keep themselves safe from abuse, but also so that they do not cause harm to other people. And they can be, you know, they can be social change. What's the word I'm looking for? They can be
peacemakers.
Yeah, something like that. But just so they can, like, if we grow these children into these people using these different skills, we would see less violence as a whole. We would see more open-mindedness, more inclusivity, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and less tolerance of domestic and sexual violence because it's like, no, we clearly expect to treat people differently, treat ourselves differently.
And it starts right away when they come home from the hospital.
Yeah.
And I know people are always like, say what? Right away from the hospital, they are eating, sleeping, and pooping, and that is it. But seriously,
it's true.
But seriously, it really starts right away. So one of the first skills, I guess we can call them, that we want to encourage caregivers to encourage is empowerment. And empowerment can be used in a variety of different fields and ways, but in general, we want kids to know that they are powerful and they have control so that other people don't exert that on them, right? So one of the things you can do to help empower your children is to encourage them to voice their feelings and concerns. And on anything, let them know they are welcome to say, I think this punishment isn't fair. I know that sounds terrible as a parent. You're like, I'll tell you why it's fair, right? But they have the right to tell you. It doesn't mean you have to change anything.
Right.
You can say, I understand. This is why we're doing this or this is why we have this punishment. Or the kid might actually make a good point.
Yeah.
And I think that would be really powerful too, because then you're showing humility. You're like, actually, shoot, that's true. All right, let's adapt. Let's change. Because you know better than I did on this particular front. The other thing is keeping your cool. We talk about this a lot, and I realize keeping your cool is not an easy thing. It is a lot of work for yourself, and it helps you in your life, but it'll also help your kids. So ideally, when kids are having tough conversations with their parents, whatever it might be, remember that they're going to look at your face, they're going to hear the tone of your voice, and you might accidentally shut them down just by like nonverbal cues. And that's not empowering because then they're not able to tell you what they're thinking and feeling. So just be mindful. I have a real problem with wearing every emotion on my face. And to the point where when I get into serious conversations, I change my tone to this. Because it's my way of actively like neutralizing my nonverbal cues.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it really helps me. I mean, maybe it will help other people. I hope it does.
Yeah.
But
I wish people could have seen your face just now. That's why I was laughing.
because it drops to completely neutral.
Yeah. It almost is like a monotone. And it's like
Yeah,
with the
it
facial
is.
expression,
I'm trying
too.
so hard to
Yeah.
just be middle ground.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to feel afraid or unable to share hard things with me. Yeah. Shoot, maybe that's why strangers are always coming up to me telling me all their information. Maybe I should make it harder. Just kidding.
No, you are approachable though. And I will say too, like because I also have an issue with showing everything on my face and through my voice. And I'll be honest, like when I get stressed, my voice goes up, and not just in higher pitch, as in volume. And I think it's because I try to make myself bigger so I can be heard.
That's a natural response that your body does. That's like not you being a bad person.
Well, but I think too, like it can get scary.
No, but that's again the purpose. Now you
that's true.
Have to, as a higher being, have to say, "Hey, body."
Yep.
I actually don't. My 6-year-old is not going to threaten my life today. We don't need to get big grizzly bear energy.
I've started to narrate when that happens. I say, I've raised my voice now. I just noticed I raised my voice, but I think it's because I don't feel heard right now. Yeah. Will somebody tell me they heard me?
But what a good way to model recognizing and saying what you need.
Yeah,
really.
And then I'm like, all right, because I'm so amped up, I'm going to go to the kitchen now and take a few breaths.
Yeah. No.
Which that is actually a big step for me, because otherwise I would have just kept going. And so I think, and it's taken so much time, and I have to remember though, like, bring the volume down. Yeah. But I think noticing when that stuff is starting to happen and be like, okay, what's going on for you? Like, this isn't their problem. Yep. You're actually trying to address a different problem, but now you're making a whole new one. So what do you need to do to take care of yourself so that you can go help them get through whatever they're going through?
Yeah, put your mask on first when you're on the airplane, right?
Yep. Usually I run into most issues with the 6-year-old trying to get her out the door in the morning.
Fair.
But that's honestly like the biggest challenge.
Well, and then there's how many additional stressors to that, because it's not just getting her out the door. It's if we're not out the door on time, we're going to be late for school, and then I'm going to hear about from the school, and then I'm going to be late for work, which means so-and-so has to cover or whatever. So it's like the cascade of events that occurs if you're late.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, I have a problem with that as well in general, where I look at the cascade rather than the tiny little piece that's in front of me.
Yeah, and then I start naming what the cascade's going to be out loud to the 6-year-old who like can't handle all that. And I'm like, why did I just put all that on her? Anyway, wow, I just sound like a total jerk. But
you do.
That is like...
You sound normal.
My stress played out in the morning.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, and mornings are no fun anyways for a lot of people. I know some people are mornings, but morning people, but not everyone.
Well, and that's the thing, like with the morning routine. But then if one thing changes, then you're on a whole, you're on it again. Like, okay, what's going to work? Yeah. What's going to work? So it's not like every morning, and some mornings are super smooth, but when it's not, it's not.
No, I feel you. So the last little thing I want to talk about regarding empowerment is, and this is also super hard for me, is guiding the young person through the challenge rather than either straight up telling them what to do or doing it for them. And I think as a parent, you're like, it's going to be faster if I do it for them, right? So you do it because you're trying to save time. But that isn't showing the child, one, that you believe they can do it, that they're capable of doing it, and they can't show themselves that they can do it. So like, we really have to slow down. I know how hard that is. I don't know how to give you an extra couple hours in the day. I would if I could, but I can't. So make sure you let them work through challenges. My mom was great at this. I hated it then. Now I see the value in it, where I'd be like, Mom, blah, 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 I need help, or this isn't working. And she'd go, no, you can figure it out. And I would be mad. I'd be so mad. I'd like, I just want her to freaking do it for me.
Yeah.
But that's such a valuable skill. Now I can problem solve my way out of most things. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without that constant reinforcement and encouragement to go figure it out my own way. And then if I didn't, my grown-up is there to help me.
Right.
Or if I make a mistake, my grown-up is there to help me. So I think that's super important. And showing that you trust and believe them is setting the stage for them to be able to share things with you that might be really hard. It may be, I know it seems not connected, but if your child was to disclose abuse to you, they might be more willing if they know my parents believe me. Yeah. So when I tell them, they're going to believe me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that.
I know. It's sad that there aren't kids who are believed, but
yeah, this
is just one step in showing your child that you believe them and in them.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thanks.
The next tool that we're going to talk about is helping kids understand that they have an intuition and that they can follow it. And again, this connects in with the empowerment piece.
Yeah, it is. It's like a section.
Learning about themselves, learning to trust themselves and that they're capable, but also they have adults around them that can encourage them and empower them. So first of all, finding a way to describe intuition as an inner best friend or a microphone that they can turn to. So really tuning into themselves and saying, what do I need right now? Or how do I feel about this thing? And that truly, if you feel weird about something, or you feel like your tummy's hurting or your heart's pounding and you feel like you're scared, like this could be a way that you start talking about this, is that we might be starting to notice how our body feels when this thing happens or this person's around. And that, if it does feel weird, if your tummy does feel icky, then it's weird. Like, trust yourself. Like, if you feel scared about something, then like it's not right for you, or maybe you feel uncomfortable. Like, trust those feelings and teaching them to really just tune in and trust themselves. That's what intuition's all about. And that listening isn't just with our ears, that we can truly listen into our body and notice how we feel, slow ourselves down just a little bit so that we have space to understand how we feel about something. So you're going to be listening with your whole body and giving them chances to learn how to listen with their whole body, whether that's, maybe teaching them some like mindfulness practices or something like that. Even just starting with a little bit of silence, maybe a minute of silence, which they're going to cough and sneeze their way through, but they'll get better at it. Yeah. It's so funny. So I used to have a congregation, and I would have them do 2 minutes of silence. And it was so funny when they first started, because they would like cough and like you would just hear all this hustle and bustle and they're just sitting there, but like they were the loudest little crew. And then a few weeks later, like I would say like a month in, it was like pure silence.
Yeah, because it takes practice.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh, now you're more comfortable coming here into this space and being quiet with each other. Like, wow.
That's a skill in itself.
That was really cool. And I've seen youth do it too, where they want that silence, and they actually wanted more than I gave them.
Yeah. That's cool.
It was really cool. So just and so even just having those moments where they can be quieter so that they can understand how they feel. Because I don't know about you, Heather, but like if I don't have time and space to figure out how I feel about something, I don't really know how I feel about that thing.
Yeah, it absolutely, in fact, I do it on purpose.
Yeah. I distract myself.
Mm-hmm. And not always, but like, I hate everyone hates being uncomfortable. Yeah. I hate being uncomfortable. Yeah. It's one of my like trauma things that I carry with me. So when I'm uncomfortable, I immediately seek solutions to fix it. And sometimes that's just a distraction.
Yeah.
But if I can't sit and feel the feeling, I can't move past it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I have to schedule PTO.
Yeah.
To actually have time with myself to see what do I really think about this thing? How do I feel about this thing?
Yeah.
What am I going to do about it? But like, honestly, I have to think and feel first.
You really do.
Yeah.
I was having a hard time with a variety of things somewhat recently. And like, I kept doing that thing where you feel like you're about to cry and then you stop yourself.
Yeah.
And it was at work. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'm at work. And I was like, you know what, girl, close the freaking door. Have your cry.
Yep.
It's okay. And like, of course, in the space, here at Safe Journeys, that's never going to be looked down upon and everybody's going to support you in whatever way you want to. But it's that like personal thing, right? Don't cry. Don't show that vulnerability. But you know what? This last week or two, I allowed myself the tears. I allowed myself to sit in my self-pity for just a little while.
Oh, yeah.
And I do think I've come out of that hard moment on the other end feeling a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need to show kids that like, this is a temporary feeling, but we have to feel it.
Yeah. I love that too. Like the idea that it's temporary and that to give yourself that space to really feel how you're feeling and also to trust that initial instinct as well. So like, again, if they're feeling scared, if they're feeling uncomfortable or maybe even frustrated with somebody because they're not listening to them. And it's like, I try to tell this person that I don't feel comfortable with them touching me or tickling me, but they don't even listen to me. And that makes me mad. Like, I don't know what to do with that
and
feeling.
What feelings in your body tell you that you're mad? Are your fists clenched?
Exactly.
Are you sweating?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to trust that, be like, so why are you mad? Because you asked him to not touch you. What made you ask him not to touch you? And then, so like you felt uncomfortable. Maybe you felt, because we know that anger is like a secondary emotion.
To fear.
Yeah. So, what made you scared? Like, did you feel it in your tummy? Mm-hmm. Like, what does that tell you? Like, and if you need to not see that person anymore or have those moments where there could be touching or you need me to help advocate for you, let's do that. But yeah, teaching kids to trust their feelings and not just like stuff them down and be like, oh, well. Which
is probably why I don't cry, right? Or I don't want to cry.
Yeah. Well, and get through it. Yeah. Find the solution,
Toughen up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, toughen up. Yeah.
Clearly, we're expressing some things that we were not pleased with as a child.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, get over it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw some TikTok about, like, our age group. It wasn't like, let's work through your feelings. It was like, some kids have it worse. Pull it together.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess I'll just keep going.
Yeah. Or stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about.
Oh, God. I couldn't hate a saying more than that one.
That was a bad one. But I like some of these questions that could be tools for you all. So here's one. Where does your intuition tell you it might be?
Like if you're looking for something, right?
Yeah.
Like, I lost my favorite dinosaur. All right. Well, what's your intuition tell you?
Yeah. And then asking them, how does your heart feel about that person or situation? Because if you ask them about their heart rather than their mind, they might dig deep into feelings rather than, because we know emotions are in your brain, but like when you feel it in your heart and you're thinking about your whole body, your heart's more in the center of you and they might tune more into, oh, my arms feel tingly, or, I have this like pit in my stomach, or my chest is tight, like all those things,
Yeah.
So I like these questions because they can be really good tools for caregivers. And then, when your kid asks you if you're upset or angry or sad or whatever that emotion is, be honest with them. Like my 3-year-old right now, like something will happen, or maybe even he's even like play fighting us with his little sword or something. And he's a big adventure boy.
Okay.
And he's just like, oh, you okay? Are you okay? And then sometimes, I mean, like it really hurt, and you're like, oh, when you push the sword that hard, like it does hurt, and trying to keep the neutral tone and everything. But saying like, hey, that does hurt. Like, I'm okay, but like, we got to be careful with how hard we
But I'm feeling ouchy
do
right
that.
now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, make sure, like when you tell them nothing's wrong, you're teaching them that their intuition is wrong. Because like when this is going to play out for them, they'll be like, oh, well, I'm okay. I feel scared right now, but yeah, nothing's wrong.
Or reading other people.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
oh, I can see how that plays out with
that's
consent.
what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Like when someone says, yeah, no, everything's fine. But they their eyes are puffy, right? They've clearly been crying. Their nose is full of snot.
Yeah.
Like, okay, nothing, it's not. I can see it's not. But now I don't trust myself.
Exactly.
It's gaslighting, really.
Yeah, gaslighting yourself, gaslighting the other person.
Yeah.
And like this is all about tuning in to our nonverbal,
Yep.
And being able to read somebody else's nonverbal. And this is going to give them practice, because if they trust themselves on the inside, they're going to trust, how they're going to trust that the person next to them who they're in relationship with trusts their own self. Mm-hmm. And they'll be able to say, hey, I noticed you're looking like you're kind of uncomfortable with this.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling right now?
Yeah.
Because I know
Asking
I want
for
this,
clarification.
Yeah, exactly.
No, totally. Which asking for clarification is absolutely appropriate. The amount of times I have, now that I think about it, done this where a child said, hey, is something wrong? And I was like, nope, everything's fine, because I didn't want the kid to be upset.
Yeah.
I wanted them to see me as their caregiver being strong so they don't have to worry.
Yep.
And like, it comes from a good place.
It does.
But it's not really giving them the skills or the experiences that they need to be empathetic adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're literally reaching out saying, I'm noticing, and they might be not be using this language, but basically in adult language, they're saying, I'm noticing that you seem like you're angry right now. How are you feeling?
Mm-hmm. And like, Will would be, you okay?
Yep. You okay?
Right? But like, he sees it.
Yep.
He clearly sees it.
Yep.
So I think, it's super duper valuable.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah. It is. It is.
So the next skill we want to talk about reinforcing and building with your kiddos is body autonomy. And when we say body autonomy, we mean that each individual is in control of their own body and what happens to their own body. This is less about vaccinations, which I know some people had used that. That's not how we're referring to body autonomy. This is, I get to decide what happens to my body because I am the only one living in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing, and my stepmom and sister, when my nephew was born, we had this discussion, and like both of their eyes were like, oh yeah, totally makes sense, but never thought about it. So when I first met my nephew, after over a year of not having seen him ever because he was born during COVID, my stepmom was like, oh, give your Auntie Heather a hug, right? And he doesn't know who, I'm just some strange lady. He doesn't know who I am. And I was like, oh, no, it's okay. I'm a stranger right now. Like, we'll get to hugging one day. Today's not the day. I'm just going to wave from over here. And like my stepmom kept being like, no, it's your family. It's your auntie, whatever. I was like, okay, I guess we have to have a discussion. And like, not in a mean way. I don't want you, my stepmom is freaking amazing and wonderful, and I adore her. This is just old school parenting.
Right.
And so my sister was like, yes, we're not going to force him to hug anybody. And so very exciting that everybody joined in on the body autonomy game. But that's one of the things we have to think about. And it's not just hugs and kisses with family. It's sitting on the Easter Bunny's lap or Santa's lap, Melissa's poor daughter was slightly traumatized by a Santa.
Yes.
And it's because he wasn't respecting her boundaries, even though she was trying to show him through nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
She was not into it.
Yeah. Well, and she had even declined to sit on his lap. And
because
then
it's her body. She gets to decide.
Yeah. And then he came up behind her and tapped her on the shoulder. And she was just like, I'm not turning around.
No.
I'm not even acknowledging this person. But you could tell she went rigid.
Well, you ended up having to say something.
I said she clearly said no.
Yeah. But like, how great for your daughter to see you supporting her decision.
That's right. Yeah.
Saying, look, my mom could tell I was not cool with this and that I said no. And this, grown man was pushing my boundaries.
Yeah. It's like.
And so my mom stepped in and, mama bared the heck out of that situation.
I wish I could go back to that moment and just add one more sentence where it's like, what need is not being fulfilled for you right now that you're trying to seek it from some 6-year-old girl? Because I was just like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why are you putting this on her? Like, she already declined.
Yeah. And like, there's no benefit to that Santa. Like, he doesn't get more money for every child that sits on his lap or something.
No.
So, like, what's the benefit here to you? Because if you're really here for the kids, then you should be doing what the kids want.
Yeah. And it wasn't like something where
he wasn't like.
It wasn't like a line of kids where it was like he's sitting there, there was a line, and then it wasn't in a mall. It was like at a pancake breakfast, which is why
like
he came up later
setting,
to do that. And it was just like, it was just so strange. But anyway, yeah, just like, and that leads into this whole like practicing saying no.
Wait, I have one more thing.
Oh gosh.
Sorry. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. I was like, wait, I have one more thing to say.
Yeah. I don't want to cut that off. So
no. When we practice body autonomy at home and in our families, we teach kids two things. One, that people aren't allowed to do things to them that they don't want, but they're not allowed to do things to other people that they, that other person doesn't want. And boy, that's hard for kids. I mean, it's hard for adults, right? You can't make somebody do something. I suppose, well, you can, but that would be abuse, right?
Yeah.
So it's important that they know if someone says no, you respect the no.
Yeah.
And that's part of the body autonomy, which then goes into
practicing saying no and refusing and standing up for themselves. And like Heather was saying, this isn't just about touching either. This is for everything. And we can make it a game here. Like we can even go through example scenarios, and think about, if somebody tries to threaten you or ask you to keep a secret, and especially about touching, but just anything, because really, if you recall from episode 5 and 6, when we talked about grooming and the different characteristics of, or the different steps of grooming, one of those was like testing the kids' secret keeping abilities. And so it just even an adult saying, my favorite color is blue, but don't tell anybody, okay? Mm-hmm. And seeing if that comes back around. But like, again, we shouldn't be asking kids to keep secrets. And I know the color blue isn't necessarily an unsafe secret that hurts people, but like, again, they were testing the secret keeping ability. And so, but just finding some scenarios that...
I think Emily mentioned this at our meeting on Friday, and I was like, wow, Emily is so good. It's not even in the curriculum. But I remember her saying, like, we talk about what if someone, I think it was bribing or threatening.
Yeah.
What do you do if someone bribes or threatens you to keep a secret?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. And I was like, shoot, I wouldn't even have thought about putting that scenario in front of them. But it's very important.
Well, and especially like if somebody offers you something you really want, whether that's candy or and I'm not just talking about getting in the car, offer the candy thing, like offers you candy to keep a secret or offers you your favorite insert
whatever. Yeah.
That there. Like gets you the new iPhone, like to keep that secret.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is a really good scenario to go over with your kids. And again, like you can make it like a role play or even a game or create a game where you maybe it's kind of like not a Candyland kind of thing, but like maybe you do make a board game or maybe you make flashcards or something like that and say, all right, what's a response to this or whatever it is. Be playful with them because they're going to remember things like games.
I actually saw like a recommendation. I can't remember where it was for a game.
Yeah.
And there was some kid song about different activities. I don't remember what they were, but it was like, we love going to the park and blah, 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 whatever. And so you play the song, and when you hear a thing that you don't love or you wouldn't want to do, you scream, no.
Oh,
so
I love it.
They're just screaming no, essentially, at certain things that they don't like. But it kind of gets you to that place where, like, you're comfortable saying no.
Yeah. Yep.
But, yeah, I don't know how well it would work in real life, but I saw it on the internet, on the interwebs.
And here's another one, and I haven't gotten to this with my kids yet, but it's considering a code word that kids can use when they need help saying no, because that could be something that indicates to you as the caregiver, I need to step in and help my kids say no right now, and they're asking for help because I am hearing the code word. So I really love that idea.
Without having to, like, make anyone else feel uncomfortable. I'm thinking, like, at that Santa situation, right? If your daughter had, I don't know, banana cakes is your code word, which is weird, but it's just what came to my mind. And, like, she just looked at you and was like, Mom, banana cakes.
I want banana cakes.
Yeah, like, immediately you would know that she wants help.
Yeah.
And Santa would just be like, well, okay, I guess she likes banana pancakes. I don't know.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool. So we're going to talk about private body parts again. I know you've heard this a lot, but we keep talking about it because it's so stinking important. First of all, using the appropriate biological terms for body part isn't sexualizing it. If you're using the appropriate terms, it is anatomy, it is science, it is nature. That doesn't mean it's sexual, okay? That's first and foremost.
And this goes back to empowerment.
It
You
does.
are giving them the information they need to be able to make decisions about their body and use those words if somebody were to touch them and be able to say, do not touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, that's the first thing. Second thing, we don't need to be creating any more shame or stigma around body parts or private body parts. There's already too much of that out there. We need to be destigmatizing the use of these words. Again, if your doctor is using them, this isn't a sexual word. If your doctor would write this down in a medical chart, this is not a sexualized word. We don't need to have stigma about it. All it does is keep people from getting help that they need.
Yes.
And whatever help, whether it's they suffered sexual assault, they have an infection, it doesn't matter what help. But people don't want to ask for help if they have a private body part issue, and that is not okay. Because we all have private body parts and we all need to keep them healthy.
That's right. And just like any part of your body, right?
Yeah. And not using the words makes it hard to stay healthy.
Yep.
If nose was a taboo word so I have 2 nose rings. If I got one infected and I couldn't show up to the doctor and say my nose, I'd be like, the thing on my face. Okay. You also have eyes and a mouth. Like, you can see how it can be misconstrued, right?
Yes.
So, and that kind of leads into the next thing. It's easier then to use that term when you need to. Yeah. One of those things might be a health issue, but it could also be that you were abused. Someone touched your private body parts when they weren't, they're not supposed to. It wasn't your mom wiping your bottom at 2.5 because you used the toilet. So we have the words, we can use them. We can say, hey, no, don't touch my, penis, my vulva, my breast, whatever it is. And that's a deterrent in itself, which we learned straight from predators' mouths. When they use the correct terms, they know this kid's got some knowledge and they have people that they can talk to. The second reason is, I hope it never gets to this, but if a child is abused and there's going to be a court case or a criminal case, if they don't use the correct term, and Erin Marin talked about this as well, if they're not saying the name of that private body part, they're using some nickname, that predator is way more likely to get let off. Because they can argue that, oh, well, my fanny, right? My fanny, that could mean anything. Could mean a fanny pack. Maybe they were talking about their fanny pack or whatever the case might be. So it's really important that kids can use those terms so they can use it with the police, they can use it with the doctor, and they can use it in the court system. Are any of those things I want your kids to have to use them? No, but it's better to be prepared.
Yep. Now, it's very important, as a caregiver, you are one of the people that the child sees most. And especially in the home, you see this child every day. And so not just depending on like school-based prevention that we featured in episodes 8 and 9, this is important all the time. And now, am I asking you to constantly be like on the lookout for opportunities to teach a lesson? Like, no. But if this is just part of your practice of like we've said, the body autonomy, the empowerment, the, allowing them to trust their intuition, like you need to trust your intuition, that it's okay that they trust theirs too. And so what is really important is that you reinforce what the child has learned at school when they do learn it. And, we send home links and we try to provide resources for caregivers, including this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Because hearing it once it's not enough. It needs to be something that's just part of how you live out your life. And so as a caregiver, how do you conduct yourselves at home? How do you model the behaviors? How do you empower your child in everything, And again, it doesn't just have to do with private body parts. That's not the only thing we talk about. Like, this is everything you do. Like, this is an approach.
Yeah, it's a way of living.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say lifestyle, but
these are skills for life.
Yeah.
For healthy relationships and healthy relationships with their own body, and the empowerment and giving them the tools they need to be able to say no and have boundaries and have healthy relationships in their life, including with their own body.
Well, and then I'm thinking, as you're saying it, I'm going, and if we don't do that, that's how we get a world full of people pleasers.
Yeah.
Right? And as a people pleaser, it isn't fun to be a people pleaser. No. You are way more likely to have your boundaries violated, way more likely to experience abuse, and a variety of other negative outcomes because you can't, or you don't feel like you can speak up for yourself, or you don't have the tools. And we can't have a bunch of more adults.
No. And it sounds like that's what's on the young people too. When I shared about the story about the young people I've been speaking with at the local high schools, how they'll just do anything to be with that person, whatever they want, and they don't think about like, but I don't want this, or no, I would rather it be this way. Like, they're not tuning into that. They're just trying to please the other person to
so that they stay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that appease part of the fight or flight. And it's like, we do not have to be in survival mode.
It's exhausting to be in survival mode all the time.
Or even, I'll say it for the workplace. Like, you do not need to be in survival mode in your workplace. Like, that's not a healthy environment. And you should be able to state a problem and say, we need to work on a solution.
Mm-hmm. Ask for what you need.
Yep. Advocate, but also say, like, it's not my responsibility to find a solution to this. I can come to you and name a problem, and I can also say, that's that's not mine to hold.
Yeah. No, and all of these skills so far, if they were employed regularly, would create or grow an adult that can do those things or say, this is not negotiable for me. I will not do this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if that puts you in a bad spot or makes you upset with me, but I'm solid. I'm strong on this one. I'm not doing it.
Yep. And these are assertiveness skills.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the skill with refusing that and saying no and reporting that we teach kiddos, because they can say how they feel and what they want to do about it. Like, no, I don't want to be touched like that. I am going to go tell.
Yeah.
Like, and again, it's not just about touch, but hopefully they're hearing themselves practice and say, like, no, I don't like that.
Right, exactly. And of course, there'll be things that they don't like, but if you as an adult can explain to them, this is a health and safety thing.
Yep.
Or the law requires me to, whatever it might be, like to put them in school. And they're like, I hate school. It's like, no, legally you have to be in school,
well,
right?
Sure.
But like you can explain those things rather than just doing, what I say goes.
Yeah. Like, well, let's talk about what's one thing you do like about school.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, redirect, right?
And maybe you'll uncover some kind of bullying issue.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something.
Yeah. Whether that's with a teacher or with a student, you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that could be a really important conversation.
So the next thing we were going to cover, we've definitely talked about, but I'll be slightly more explicit with it, is modeling the behavior that you want to grow in your child or that you want to see your child have. So one of the first things is using very clear language and communication when a line has been crossed, whatever that might be. Like Melissa, you were saying your 3-year-old poked you too hard with the toy sword, and you said, that hurt, Mom.
Yeah.
When you did this, right?
Yeah.
So you're being clear. You're saying X made Y happen, or I feel this because of that. And then you can also elaborate and say, I didn't let you go to so-and-so's to sleep over last night because I just had an icky feeling in my tummy. Mm-hmm. Like showing your child that the skills that you're teaching them, you're using, right. However that might be, whether it's explaining the way you're doing a situation or showing them how to do something. Like if you and your partner are having an argument, arguing is okay, but you can do it in a healthy way. And if your child even overhears you saying, yeah, hon, I hear you're saying you're angry at me for not, doing the dishes enough. I'm sorry that I made you feel, like all those things. Like your kid will hear it. They will use that language. I mean, they use our swear words, right?
Yeah.
They'll use that language too. So just remember, you can drop those good words and those good skills in for them to use as well.
Right. And even check in later as well. Like,
of course.
If they did hear it and be like, yeah, naming what happened mm-hmm. and saying, that was not a good way to handle that. And maybe even talking about like how you're working on it.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Or I'm thinking, I'm particularly thinking a mom was had a really rough day and she's got 3 kids trying to climb on her when she gets home. And mom is in her mind being like, all I want is some alone time. And these kids won't leave me alone. So you could say as the parent, hey guys, or kids, I had a really hard day and I need some personal space right now so that I can be the best mom for you guys, right? Like you can tell them, I don't want you to do this right now. And it will help them handle rejection.
Oh, dude. So I actually have dealt with this recently.
Okay.
Because then I tried that one, because I tried to get her to feel empathy for me.
Okay.
And she was just like, nope. She kept whining and being like, and repeating herself, because when she doesn't feel heard,
that's how
she repeats herself and gets into whiny mode and doesn't hear anything. And so I was really thinking about it because I was like, okay, this does not need to be a big fight. Like this could be, she knows we're going to take a walk. I just need 15 minutes. after I get home, or I need to eat. I need to do these things, and then I'll be ready to take a walk. And you can expect from me that, when it's nice out, we are going to take a walk every night. So you'll know that about me, and you can expect it. So you don't feel like you're having to fight for this, because all I needed was 15 minutes. Maybe it was even 5 at the time. It was not much, but I just was not ready yet to go.
No, I mean, it makes total sense. And I think, of course, the first time you have that discussion, there'll be pushback. But I think, you did exactly what we talk about. You upheld the boundaries. You gave her clear expectations. You told her why. I know it probably didn't feel great at the moment because you weren't getting the result right away that you wanted. No. But you pushed through.
Yeah, and I think it was later, after we had gone through the whole, fine, we're going.
Yeah.
After all of that, I revisited it with her, and I said, I'm going to take a walk with you, right? I want to hang out with you. And so having that conversation and connecting in a way where I think we were on a baseball field, just drawing in the dirt and all dirty. And I'm like, I like being with you. I just needed 5 minutes.
And that's setting up healthy expectations for her future relationships. Because one of the keys of a healthy relationship is having independence from each other in certain ways.
Yeah. And
that's going to start with independence from your parents.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't feel great right away. But you just gave her probably not the first lesson, but an early lesson on, being independent from someone that you love and care about.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. You're doing great. I know it didn't feel like it, but you were.
But did you hit all your points?
I did. Okay. Sorry. I know last time I was stop, but this time we're good.
So, and this other piece is kind of what I was just talking about too, is talking about the tough stuff, because it might not be comfortable to address hey, I didn't really behave the way I wanted to back there, or whatever it is, or, even tougher stuff, what to do if someone hurts your kiddo or your child's friend, and how to report to a safe adult. So this is you going through hey, who are some of the adults in your life that you trust, because sometimes I've even asked hey, would you talk to your teacher if something, bad happened? And I know my daughter said, yeah, I would, and I can tell how much she respects and really, really looks up to her teacher, because she makes stuff for her all weekend when she's not with her.
Aww. What a great teacher.
It's so sweet. Yeah. Yeah. And I know that, I watch my son too, with the daycare provider. Sure. and with us, and the more that we listen, the more he's going to be coming to us with the stuff. And I know,
did you see my eyes get real big? Oh, he's going to come with so much stuff to you. Wish he didn't.
He talks and talks and talks and talks and talks. And some of it you can understand, and full sentences. But other ones, I think they come up with their own language at times. And they're just they just like to hear themselves talk a little bit. But so do I. So,
well, we are on a podcast.
I know,
so
right?
Clearly. And not just you, me too.
Oh my gosh. Well, and Heather and I, this is a tangent. We were talking about how funny it is that we like to over-explain ourselves just independently. So I'll over-explain myself, Heather over-explains herself, and we have a grant that we write for, and you should see how long it is.
Oh my gosh. And we pared it back so much. So we just had a Google Doc, right? And it's put all of the stuff in there, and then we're going to organize it and take stuff out. The Google Doc was so long. And we're are they even going to read this grant? Is it too long? Either way, two chronic over-explainers trying to explain why somebody should give them money.
Well, and then we go through it because we're, combing through it to make sure it makes sense. And then it's wait, should I explain this more?
Our executive director said something about like, oh, you might want to explain this. And we're like, yeah, of course. Like, you don't have to ask us twice. We left it out because we were afraid we put too much in.
Oh, I love that about us.
But yeah.
But so, you know, we talk a lot about the littles because I know I have a 3 and 6-year-old, and I know Heather brings in her expertise because she's had a teenager for quite a few years now, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about teens because talking about the tough stuff with teens, sometimes they'll just be like, I do not want to hear this from you. And, but I think when you're starting from a young age, you've just created this atmosphere that you can talk about these things when they're ready. And if they don't want to, be like, I know this is painful. I'm sorry.
I mean, like, it's okay to be like, honestly, I feel uncomfortable right now too.
Yeah.
But it's so important.
Yeah, like this has to do with your health and safety. Like it's just so important that we have this conversation right now. And I love you. And
that's why I'm making myself uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Because it matters.
Yeah. Like this is why I just took you out for pizza. Like
let's go for a 3-hour drive so I don't have to look you in the eyes while I share this information.
Oh my gosh. But that makes me think about our consent activities that we've done. And
that's what made me think about it.
We can post that in the show notes actually too, is like we have a pizza consent and a cookie consent activity that we've done with teenagers. And I think it's so cool because you could literally have them decorate the cookie or decorate the pizza with you, and you can walk through what it's like to do consent, like and do the activity first and then debrief with them, and literally you've just taught them. Yeah,
consent. Nobody understands how applicable consent is until you start teaching it.
Yeah,
and then you're like, holy crap, we consent. All day long. Yep. We are negotiating boundaries 24/7.
Yes.
And when we're talking about sexual relationships, it isn't any different. And everybody needs to feel seen and heard and safe.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have an 18-year-old at home. We have had many difficult and unpleasant conversations. Usually it's me leading. Because I obviously talk a lot.
No way.
Yeah, weird, right? So we'll have the discussions. A lot of times it's quick. You know, it doesn't have to be a long one. It can be, hey, I've been thinking about this, or my poor adult now, like he's 18. Yeah. But like I'll learn something new at work at a webinar. And I'll be like, hey, can you come out here? We have to talk about porn literacy. And like,
which we haven't even gotten to on this podcast yet.
I think really the porn conversations are the ones that have been the hardest for me.
Yeah. But I think you're right on because he's 18.
Yeah. I mean, we started talking about it at like 15.
Well, and we all know like the kids are accessing porn at earlier and earlier ages now. And especially, I mean, they have such accessibility.
I just was looking at some apps that as adults we don't realize kids can find pornography on. Spotify, apparently.
Oh.
That was one that I had. There were other ones, but the one that surprised me the most. Yeah. Like TikTok I got, and the social media ones in general I understood, but I don't even know where, but somewhere on Spotify because some other health educator had compiled this.
Oh my gosh.
So now I have to like look into.
Right. And the thing is too, like I know I've been in a classroom before where I shared my 6th grade sex.com story.
Share it right now.
Yeah. So I was in 6th grade. I was at home and, this is 1999. Okay. So we just got the internet. Yeah, it was dial up. And I was curious about sex and I wanted information. So I went to sex.com. I mean, like that makes sense to me because I'm like, just put .com on the end of anything you want to look up and you'll find it, right?
Well, in the 90s.
Whoops. I found it. So lots and lots of pop-ups, okay?
And pop-ups weren't big then. Like
No.
when it was kind of scary when the pop-ups would show up.
It was very scary because that meant viruses.
Yeah.
Okay. So lots of pop-ups, images that were way above my comprehension level. I was just like, oh my gosh. And I started bawling my eyes out. And then I was like, I went downstairs and I told my parents what happened, and I'm like crying hysterically.
Like you needed support.
Yeah. And I also felt the guilt and shame of doing it, right? And so I had that. And then I was scared. And then my parents are like, the viruses.
They're like, we don't care about the porn.
Right?
The computer's ruined.
Yeah, I don't remember having a conversation about the content. It was why would you go to that? Basically, it was the extent of the conversation. Why would you go to that? Because I wanted to see. Okay, I guess that doesn't make sense. In my 6th grade brain, it made sense.
I think it does make sense, Melissa, because when you're about starting puberty, so those thoughts and feelings are beginning, and you don't know what to do with them. I was like 11 or 12 or whatever. Yeah, so it's like around the corner at the very least. Yeah. And did you receive a sex education?
No, I did not.
Well,
my public school brought in some people who separated the boys and the girls and told me that the best thing I can give my husband is my body, not a lamp for on my wedding night.
I mean, okay.
And I signed an abstinence vow, which I took seriously throughout my entire teenage years and into my early 20s until my marriage, because I take commitments seriously. And honestly, I didn't even have all the information I needed for abstinence. I was just like
to make the commitment.
Yeah, honestly. But all that aside, like you can see in my diary, 1999. In big letters. Why did I go to sex.com? That's literally what it says in my little Snoopy diary.
I wish I could respond to your diary and be like, because you did not receive appropriate sex ed.
Exactly. Well, I brought this story to some young people in the classroom, and it actually spoke to them, because I said, have you ever put something in the search engine that when you got the results, you're like, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
What did you do next? And a lot of them are like, I just act like it didn't happen. I delete the history. I do all this stuff. And I'm just like, that's kind of sneaky, guys. Yeah. And then this one kid, this is 6th grade, by the way.
You're like, is he a sneaky kid?
Oh my goodness. He goes, if I know that I'm going to be searching for something that I don't want other people to see, I go into incognito mode. Yeah. And I was just like, okay, you just took it a little
Don't tell the other kids.
Yeah, that was like a step further than I was going, because I didn't know that I was looking something up so bad. Like, I just wanted some information, as in, like, just give me some information about sex. Not everything that sex.com had to offer. I did not want that, you know?
No.
That's not what my little brain was expecting. And I know that I know that. And because you can tell by my reaction.
Well, yeah. And I'm just thinking, like.
But and that's the thing, too. I say, do you have somebody that you could go to and say, I just looked up, let's say, okay, there was one kid in class who said, I was looking up female rappers. Okay. Rappers as in RAPPERS. Okay.
Yeah.
And she spelled it WRAPPERS. And female condoms came up. Okay.
Okay. I was wondering where that was going.
She was so ashamed.
Oh.
And I was just like, oh, honey, like, I get it. I get it, because nobody talks about it. And that points to sex and blah, blah, blah. However, could she have found somebody to go talk to about this and say, oh my gosh, this happened. Like, why? What is that about? Or like, I have questions, but I also don't want to know the answers all the way. Like, so can you just meet me where I am right now? Like, do you have those people in your life? That's my biggest question.
Even if it's an older sibling, right? Like, if it's an 18-year-old, 17-year-old big brother or big sister, if that feels less scary to ask for support, that's okay too.
Yeah. But I'm just like, you need that, some people in your life that you can go to about stuff like that. Like, because you're going to do some stuff that it's like, no, I didn't mean for that. Or actually, I was looking for that. But now I'm like, I don't want that. Or I am really having the reaction that I want to cover this up. And like, I want to go process that with somebody. Like, what do I actually do? Or do I need to tell my parents? Which, I mean, like, is it a safety issue?
Right.
Like
maybe
can
not.
you process with a trusted adult that maybe like would just help you get through that moment and then decide like, hey, is this something I have to share? Or is this something I can just say, you know, I've processed this. I'm okay. It's okay to not share this thing. And I'm thinking teenagers right now when I'm talking about this. It's just one of those things that I want to make sure they have somebody, because it's like
you
don't have to be sneaky
somebody
about this. You could literally go to somebody and talk about it if you accidentally find this. And you know, of course, like, did my parents nurture me through that moment? No. They were like viruses, but I
would have freaked out about the computer viruses too.
The block-ups.
The pop-ups. I get it.
I want to block them. That's why I said block. The pop-ups.
Your brain mushed it together.
It did. So yeah, anyway. But I think that's important. Like, we need our young people to have those conversations about boundaries and respecting other people's boundaries, but also that that they can just go to about
like
these
all
hard
things.
Yeah. And then just reinforcing consent when it comes to power dynamics and substance use and coercion, and making sure they know that they have the power to make a decision and trust their instincts. And that's really what it comes down to when you think about substance use. You know, it's like, well, how do you feel about it? And if they're already tuning into how do they feel about it, hopefully they've got some more healthy coping skills than unhealthy coping skills that can counterbalance that, because it could turn into a bigger problem.
It could. It absolutely could. And, you know, many people in America have substance use challenges. Yeah. So it's important to talk about, and important to talk about substance use in relation to consent as well, right? Because if you are under the influence, or the other person is under the influence, that's not consent.
Right.
And like, I realize how many people have sex under the influence. I'm not saying you're all bad people. It's just things you need to consider.
Right.
So like, if someone had a beer and who is it that told me? Some other educator said, if they can drive a car, they can have sex. But if they can't drive the car, if they're too drunk or too intoxicated to drive the vehicle, then they can't consent to have sex. Yes. I thought that was a decent description, and it takes into account like body weight, number of alcohol consumption, etc. So I thought that was good.
Yep.
All right. I won't keep talking forever. I could, but
we
I'm
might
not going
over-explain
to.
some more things for you.
So, our media we love this week is actually one of the publishers' websites for one of the curriculums that we use. The curriculum's called Second Step. You probably heard Emily mention it in episode 8 and 9, and maybe even 7 with Erin Moran. But Second Step is the curriculum we use. It is not just abuse prevention. There's also a social emotional learning aspect to it that many of the schools use as well. Yes. So it's super easy for educators to tack on the abuse prevention with the social emotional learning. So it's called Second Steps. They have a YouTube with videos for parents and videos for young people, and they have a website. You can take a look at the type of things we would cover on that page. There are resources for parents. There are resources for teachers. I know sending you to a website is, you're like, oh, cool, another website. There's actually a lot of really, really good stuff, and it's super duper informative. So highly recommend taking a peek. You do not have to have purchased the curriculum to get a good idea of what's going on there.
Yeah. And so we are so grateful that you tuned in for this final episode of season 1. Whoop, whoop. We did it.
I can't believe that we recorded 10.
I know.
I have so many more things that I want to say.
Yeah, so stay tuned. We're going to have more seasons. So we're pretty excited. If you are interested in being in touch with us, you can get a hold of us through SafeR Journeys Pod at safejourneysillinois.org. And that truly is all spelled out. So,
yep. Or if you head over to our Facebook or Instagram and you shoot us a message,
yes,
I'm going to be the one receiving it. And of course, I will share it with Melissa. So feel free to use that if emailing's too much trouble. I would probably go for a messenger app just because it's a little easier.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe in the next couple seasons, we'll be able to take things like voicemails or connect through some maybe parent support or caregiver support groups around here locally or even on Zoom. So anything's possible, honestly.
And we have some cool ideas for next season.
We do.
I don't want to commit to anything yet, but...
Oh, yeah.
But we've got some cool stuff, and you're going to hear more from other team members of ours.
Yes. Yeah. More topics that we can over-explain for you.
And hopefully some young people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We're planning on having some young people on to hear it straight from their mouths.
Yeah. So thanks again for tuning in. Until next time.
Look out for new podcasts every other Monday on anywhere that you can find your podcasts. Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Anchor FM, you name it. We're there. If you have any questions, and we would love to hear from you, you can email us at saferjourneyspod@safejourneysillinois.org. You can also message us on social media. We have a Facebook and an Instagram that you can find us at. And let's talk about some resources for anyone who's experiencing abuse. If you happen to live in and around LaSalle or Livingston County in Illinois, please feel free to call Safe Journeys support line at 815-673-1555. 24/7, confidential, services are free. If you don't happen to be in our area, there are 2 national hotlines that you can call for support. For sexual violence, you can call RAIN with 2 N's. That's the National Sexual Violence Hotline. Their phone number is 800-656-HOPE. They also have a live chat on their website if you're interested. And for domestic violence or intimate partner abuse, you can call the hotline, which is simply thehotline.org. This is our national domestic violence hotline, and you can give them a call at 800-799-SAFE or chat live on the website. Thanks for listening.